Good afternoon and welcome everybody. If you could take a seat. My name is Alison Hinderliter. I am the curator of modern manuscripts and archives here at the Newberry Library, and I want to welcome you to this afternoon's colloquium, which the Newberry provides for free Wednesday afternoons at 4 o'clock with a variety of speakers. It's normally in a smaller room, but those are being occupied, but this is perfect because since this is about Bill Frederking's photographs, we want it on the big screen. Yes. We're very proud to be the repository for William Frederking's photographs, both analog and digital. And we really invite all of you to visit our webpage, our digital collections. Just tomorrow in print, there will be an article in the Chicago Reader about that, but you can also get the link to it online, which also has a link to the digital collections that we have here of Bill's photographs. So we're going to have a couple of speakers, both before and after Bill's presentation, and it is my pleasure to introduce the first speaker, who is Mark Kelly. Mark is the former Chicago Commissioner of Cultural Affairs. Many of you may already know him. Previously, he had a tenure of 32 years at Columbia College Chicago, where he was the Vice President of Student Affairs. He is the founder and organizer of several public art initiatives, including the Wabash Arts Corridor, Art on the Mart, Arts in the Dark Parade, and the citywide Year of Initiatives for Theater, Creative Youth, Music, and Dance. And he remains an active arts advocate. So please join me in welcoming Mark.
Thanks, Allison, and I am just so pleased to be here to introduce my colleague and friend of over 40 years. I met Bill in 1983, and what's amazing is we look exactly like we did back then. And there's no photographs to dismiss what I just said. Typically, if you heard me speak, I don't work from notes, but because I have a short introduction, I wanted to make sure I was able to say everything I want to say about Bill, so excuse me if I read from notes. I met Bill when he was the newly hired assistant studio manager and part-time faculty member after 5 years as a freelance photo assistant. He had also just completed his MFA in photography from UIC. With his mix of commercial experience combined with his MFA, he was a very unusual photo faculty member. Soon he was hired to the full-time faculty, and Bill taught photography for some 28 years and was the associate dean at Columbia College for an additional 7 years. Opposites in personality, right, Bill? We bonded around our ideas about how to support the development of emerging creatives. Bill fought against both the precious artist concept and, conversely, the narrow vocational approach. He saw art education as a melding of skill development, knowledge of the past, exploration, experience of the working world, and finally, the constant development of one's body of work. I believe Bill's ideas about arts education prefigure his emergence as a great dance photographer. With his emerging connection to the Columbia Dance Center, Bill began his love affair with the dancers in the Creative Forum in 1990. In 1994, he established his studio and embarked on his life mission to capture the power and beauty of dance. Bill has been an unparalleled friend of the Chicago dance community. This artist has been documenting dance for 34 years and counting. He has photographed approximately 100 dance companies and over 500 individual dancers, and has a database of images that exceeds 400,000. And what's most astonishing about all of this, he did this all gratis. Well, he got paid once or twice. But Bill, his passion, this was his gift to the world, bringing his artistry. And 98% of this was done where he provided the studio time, he provided the work, the effort, the artistry, assembling, shooting, documenting. I don't know of any other artists in Chicago that I can look to and say that they have given their life's work, and it's all been pro bono. In 2013, his dancer portrait emerged as he focused on individual dancers. With an unbridled zeal, Bill is documenting hundreds of Chicago dancers. With his probing and sympathetic eye, he asks, "Who are you? Why do you dance? How does dance shape you? What is your dance story?" In these portraits, each dancer comes to life as a creative being fueled by his or her passion for dance. I find these images exhilarating, joyful, immediate, and personal. Bill Frederking, with his stunning and expansive body of work, has given the Chicago dance community the greatest of gifts. The title of this talk is Transcendence, speaking to the dancer's state of being, but for me, Transcendence speaks to Bill Frederking's distinction as an artist who has reached into the heart and soul of Chicago dancers and documented the results. It is my great pleasure to welcome Bill Frederking. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I have to calm down since I'm about to do what I said I wasn't going to do, which is go off script. But it's taken me for some reason 34 years to speak out in public about this work. I've always done it. It always mattered to me, and it was always sort of behind the scenes. So I am going to have to go on script now because otherwise we will be here until Thursday. So we can't do that. So welcome everyone, genuinely, and thank you for coming out to listen to a talk and to see some images. I'm so happy I have this room, because that's a good wall for images. I want to thank Alison Hinderliter, Lloyd Lewis, Curator of Modern Manuscripts and Selector of Modern Music, and the Newberry Library staff for arranging this talk. I'm grateful to Alison and Emily Keeler, digital archivist at the Newberry, for all the work they did adding my scanned analog images to the digital collections at the Newberry. I also want to thank, you can't hear me? I also want to thank another colleague who used to be at the Newberry, Martha Briggs. I started talking with her. I think I have notes that I started talking about in an archive in 1995. You know, so I've been doing this for 5 years, and I'm like, I got to make an archive. But Martha was willing to talk to me anyway. She sort of talked me down, I think. But I'm really grateful. The Newberry's been great, and I love that this archive, the digital archive of these analog images, is here, and it's visible to the public. That was really critical to me. So I have a lot of people to thank this afternoon, and a couple before I actually begin. I'm grateful to Michael McStraw, who's in here in the back, and Sean Rafferty, who's behind the camera, who are from the Chicago Dance History Project, for being here to document this event, and to my friends Mark Kelly, who you just met, Bril Barrett, Irene Hsiao, Michael McStraw, for all, later on they're going to be speaking on behalf of me in this project. You're not hearing me? Okay. Okay.
You're facing away from it.
Okay. Well, what I really want to do is go like this, but I'm not going to do that. No, I don't think I can. Okay. So this is the beginning. So I wanted to start the talk with my relationship to photography, and this is critical because this is how I relate to dancers when they're in the studio. So I remember. My father was an avid amateur photographer, and his version of making family portraits of his 6 children was to line us up in a row by age, right? Standing up straight, usually dressed in our Sunday best clothes. And when he said smile, he sort of said, smile! So I couldn't, anyway. And then he said cheese, then we said cheese. So I hated the making of these photographs. And as you can see in the second photograph, My father had a stylist slash co-conspirator, my mother. And in most of the sessions, I remember at least one of us, if not more, they were crying before this ordeal was over. Now, this time it wasn't me, it was my poor sister Barb, but still, people think that I'm kidding about this, but in almost every series of photos we have as a kid, if you go through all of them, and I now have all of them, you see the crying child, right? So I was and always have been very self-conscious, and even now I hate to have my picture taken. My wife Donna can attest to this. All right. So big shift here. The summer after my freshman year at college, my father loaned me his 35mm camera to take with me on a school-sponsored trip to Great Britain. I never imagined this would happen, but I liked being behind the camera, not in front of the camera. I felt safe, and I felt like I could do things that I normally wouldn't do, like ask people I barely knew if I could take their picture, and they'd let me. Right? The trip to Europe and my experience with that camera, and this is not an exaggeration, changed the trajectory of my life, of what I wanted to do. Right? So I told Alison I would say this: I love to show pictures where I have hair, anytime it's possible. But it took a couple years of saving money, but by the summer after my junior year, I bought my own camera, my own Canon 35mm, and I signed up for some basic summer photography classes. I loved the classes, and I quickly became one of those photographers you'd see around campus who always had a camera, taking pictures, artistic pictures of the ground, you know, and occasionally I would do portraits of my roommates and my friends. So this picture is up because I'm throughout this talk, in case you haven't noticed, I'm trying to figure out why have I done this for 34 years? Like, what is going on here? So anytime I get a nugget of something, I put it in here. So I was hired when I think it was my senior year, there was a jazz festival at Notre Dame, and I got to take pictures of famous jazz musicians. This is David Sanborn, who just died recently. And what I loved about it wasn't so much that I got to photograph him, but it was the feeling of being behind the scenes. It was the feeling of being where the audience wasn't allowed to be. I mean, there was something about that, and I think it kind of stuck. In August of 1977, with my BA in English from Notre Dame, I moved to Chicago, and by October, I was hired as a photographer's assistant by a commercial photographer, a really wonderful guy named Jack Wayne. So, coincidentally, around 1978 or 1979, one of my first paid jobs, I was actually paid to make these pictures, was of a dancer who happened to live in the same building where my boss's studio was. Her name was Judith Regier, and I photographed her at Moming Dance and Art Center and at the Old Links Hall in Sheffield. So there are people in this room that know how important Moming and the Old Links Hall is to the dance community. So it's completely coincidental that I got to work with her in that space. Okay, so a little switch. My interest in pursuing commercial photography as a career was starting to wane, and I graduated from the University of Illinois at Chicago in 1983 with an MFA in photography, and by August of '83 was hired as the assistant studio manager at Columbia College Chicago. I had taught my first beginning photography class at Columbia the previous spring. The full-time job at Columbia, and this is key for all you dancers out here, the full-time job at Columbia paid for the birth of my first child and taught me the full significance of paid health insurance, right? I worked at Columbia College for 34 years, retiring in 2017. So these were the kinds of pictures that I was making at the time when I was in school. So this work, the photographic work that I made in graduate school and at Columbia College, was personal and often involved my examination of my own life, kind of visual memoir. Sorry, I think I moved away. I made what I called still life photographs of objects in my various homes with a 4x5-inch camera that culminated in publishing a book of images in my new home of Oak Park in 2006 entitled At Home. So, in addition to that work, I was also exploring close-up portraits of my children as well as other people's children. And I remembered when I was making these pictures, I'm sure it drew me into making them. I remembered the similarity of these images with the old square format photographs that my mother and father had made of us when we were kids. So this is actually my son and my father, and this is me and my father. And it's that square format that I remember. And I do know that there's a connection to why I use the Hasselblad and the square format camera that I use for most of this work. Okay. I continued the use of this square format as I began a series I called Couplings, Couplings, which was literally a visual exploration of what relationships looked like, just as my own marriage was kind of dissolving. I asked couples who had been in relationship at least 6 months. This was interesting. I had to lower it to 6 months because it was so hard to find people I knew in their 30s who had been in relationships longer than 6 months. So I lowered the bar. But so I asked them if they would allow me to come to their house and I would make couples portraits. And I started with my own parents. So this is a kind of cheat. This is the back of my house. My daughter's actually in the way back of this image in the door. But I did a bunch of these, maybe 30. I'm not going to show more of them. This was a good friend of Mark, and I know this person, Jenny, and her boyfriend. I just love the fact that he had a Jesus Christ t-shirt. I mean, he would have made the cut no matter what, Michael. Okay. So this is the person who actually introduced, Deb Siegel, who actually introduced me to this world. So this is all true, and I've said it in multiple articles now that have attested to this from 1995 on. But I was at a faculty gathering and was talking to Deb Siegel, who was on the dance faculty at Columbia College. And she just asked what I was working on. And I said, oh, I'm doing this project called Couplings, and I'm going to people's houses. And I believed, and I still believe actually, that photography could describe, photography is always good at describing. I don't believe it's true, but I believe it describes the literal spaces between people. And I remember using that phrase because right away she popped up and said, that sounds a bit like choreography. Like choreography, sorry. All right, maybe I'll do this. So that sounds like, is that better? Fine. I'm not repeating anything that I've said. Okay. I remember her saying that sounds a bit like choreography and asking if I had ever considered photographing dancers. And she reached out to some of her friends and I started getting calls, like right away. Like they didn't even know I could do the pictures. The fact that I was interested was enough, right? So I'm just being honest. One of those dancer friends was Jan Urquhart. And Jen, I realized preparing this lecture and then thinking, and all the making the archive, digitizing them myself, how important Jan Urquhart was to this whole 34-year escapade that I've been involved in, right? Just amazing, like from the very beginning. So I started in 1990, and I believe this is one of the first sessions that I ever did. You know, and this is an aside. She said, well, where can I put the sod? And I'm like, sod? So she brought real grass into the studio, and we laid it out, and I thought, yeah, we can do that. We can do sod, sure. So one thing I want to say about this photo, and that I didn't put in all my notes, it's very important to me with this archive that every dancer in every photo is named. And so when I don't know a dancer, there's a little question mark. I've been using social media, I've been using Instagram, and sometimes people go ooh, ah, and then they never, oh, I remember that person, and then they never give me the name, so I can never change the file. So that's just a little aside. So when there are question marks in the pictures, that's what that means. And it is very important to me that with the help of the community, we can solve that problem. Okay. So my dance archive at the Newberry Library currently has around, Mark already talked about this, 4,000 scanned analog images. All these images are in some way connected to the relationship and the relationships I developed with Jan Urquhart. She introduced me to so many people, And I just have to give a big shout out. She's not here right now, but Jan is great. I love her. And she, Deb Siegel introduced me to Jan, and then wow, it's like the whole world opened up. So I began scanning and editing the analog archive images before I retired from Columbia College, but since 2017, it's been my full-time job. I'm almost finished scanning, thank God. And I now begin to work on I told Mark the higher number, 300,000 to 400,000 digital, native, I call them native digital, because after 2006, I stopped shooting film and I just shot with a digital camera. So what I hope to include in the Newberry archive, in addition to all of this analog work, will be all of the digital studio photo sessions that I've done. So on this slide, I think there's 36 or 37 companies. Mark said over 100. That's because these are only the analog days. These have nothing to do with all of the people I've worked with since that time. So I know there's at least the number that he mentioned. So I'm going to scroll through these, and I'm going to stick to it, because as I told Michael and Mark, I could tell stories about every one of these images, and I won't, because I actually want to get to the other work. But Michael McStraw, by the way, in case, I do have to do this. Nice tie, wearing a nice tie up there on the scaffold. Okay. I love Shirley. Shirley is a force of nature, so. So I do have to, this isn't really technical, because the analog images in the archive, especially the duets and the group photos, were all made using a basic, and this is not technical, 1, 2, 3, jump. But that's what we called it, and that's what we did. 1, 2, 3, well, and then how you counted the 1, 2, 3, that was always a trick. Is it 1, 2, 3? Is it 1, 2, 3? Anyway, so that's a problem. But so all of these pictures that were analog, that's the way we had to do it. We were using flash, but it just wasn't quick enough. And besides that, you couldn't afford to shoot the amount of film that you would have to shoot to get those shots. So we had to plan things, and that's important to the project that I'm doing now. So I really want people to understand that. The dancers actually did this movement. I didn't allow them as best to just do a jumped pose. They had to move through something. And that was the only direction I used to give. You have to move through it, and don't stop it for me. Like, they would try to hold it, and I'm like, no, don't do that. I would have to catch it. So I still work that way today, but back then, it was more important to do, because they only had a certain amount of money. There was only a certain amount of film they could afford, and we had to get the shot when we had to get it. So I talk a lot about working in studios, and this image came up, so I'll try not to. People did ask me to go other places. And so I literally they were called station wagons back then, and you filled your car with equipment, and I went to a church, I went to a graveyard, I went to any studio I could find if they needed it. With Shirley, I went to the old dance center, right? I loaded my equipment, I went there. So to get the movement right, and that means perfect, for the artistic director, we usually had to repeat each movement several times. We often got beautiful results, but it was also taxing for the dancer and didn't feel like real active dancing to me. Let's see, this is getting here. I made my first studio dance photographs in the Columbia College studio at 72 East 11th Street. The ceilings were high and spacious, but the floors were cement and unforgiving. They were hard and unforgiving. In September of 1994, I rented my first dance studio at 1006 South Michigan, the second floor. I rented in that building for only 4 years, but those were like the best times. Many of my favorite images of dance in that space, many of my favorite images of dance were in that space. I really did feel comfortable. It was raw, it was open. The first picture especially really gives you a sense of the space. It was 10,000 square feet. I won't even tell you how I bartered this deal with the landlord. I paid for 1,000 square feet and I had 10,000. I'll just say that. I do have to make an aside for Bob Eisen. Some of you may know Bob Eisen. Bob refused to do 1, 2, 3 jump. Bob would only move. He stopped when he wanted to stop, and he started when he wanted to start. And you just photographed him. So I'm giving him that praise because he sort of presaged the portrait project that I'm working on now. So I love that I have this photo. My wife is in this photo, Fluid Measure, the rest of Fluid Measure is in this photo, Jan Bartosik. I mean, this is like a great, like this is worth the price of admission in the archive, if you ask me. I have a lot of Jan Urquhart pictures, and they're all pretty stunning, I must admit. And it's mostly her. She's the most visual choreographer to work with me that I think I had. It was a privilege. But I also got to work with Nana Scheinflug, and Nana was also a force of nature. So she's right in the center, which is as it should be in this image. Okay, I don't know if anybody can guess who you're going to meet Bril Barrett a little bit later, but I just want you to notice he's the one on the ground, in case you didn't see it. Yeah. So when I left that studio, yeah, okay. A lot of people know Fluid Measure in this group, and I'm married to it, so I do know it. When I left that studio, the studio that I was talking about in 1998, I was able to continue my work with dancers in Columbia College Chicago's newest lighting studio. I talked them into renting a space in the same building on the 3rd floor. However, the ceilings were shorter. See, again, I don't want to get into this, but at least it was there. It was in the same building, and a couple of my colleagues from Columbia are here. I had the keys to the building. So this was way before, they were an institution, but it was way before they were a real institution. So you could have the keys, something like me. So the thing about leaving that space for only 4 years, it really felt good to be in that space. I just really loved that space. So it was sad to me. And I'm not going to go into details about the difficulties of making a living as a dance photographer in the city of Chicago, but it wasn't working, so I had to give up the studio. But at least I had access. The access I had to that studio was mostly on Sundays or when school was not in session. And again, I had the key, so which is why I could get in. So I love that I'm kind of ending the phase of the archive with this Jan Urquhart picture from 2006, because it was one of the last ones. When I got through all my notebooks, I finally got to 2006, and I'm like, finally, I'm almost done with scanning these damn things. But I love this picture. So Emma is here, thank God. And so she may be able, Emma, if I'm lying about this, do not question what I'm about to say. The world started to go digital, and as a teacher, I needed to learn digital technology. The photo department in Columbia, on the other hand, didn't switch to digital for many years later. But I felt the need to learn that technology, and so when I started doing my first digital dance photos, I really didn't know what I was doing at all. And so I know that in 2007, I asked a lot of people to just volunteer and come to the studio. I think it was Saturdays or Sundays, maybe during the summer. I don't remember exactly. But I had people come to the studio, and we just played. So it was closer to the kind of work that I'm doing now. It was probably still a little variation on the 1, 2, 3 jump, but it was mostly they were just moving. So on one of my first attempts at working in other people's studios was when I loaded my equipment into my car and I did studio portraits of Jonathan Meyer and Julia Antoniuk. Julia Antoniuk was one of the dancers that I shot digitally. She was just a few slides ago. And it was hard because I had to set everything, you know, it's just crazy the amount of equipment I have, and you have to set it up, so it's all new. All new mistakes can be made whenever you move the equipment. But I loved being there, I loved what happened, and I thought, you know, I could do this. So maybe I can take this show on the road and find other studios. So these early digital portraits of dancers eventually led to what I'm now calling the Dancer Portrait Project. I really hope I can come up with a better name, but it's just descriptive. It's what it is. I started this project at Lynx Hall in 2013 with the help of Roel Schmidt. I don't remember why Roel let me in. I think I just knocked on her door, I introduced myself, I told her who I was and what I did, and she started giving me some Sundays for free at Lynx. And that's how this project started. So on one of the early photo sessions at Lynx, I remember working with a dancer named Christina Flutie, who had brought along a friend and a dancer, Jessica Marassa, to her photo session. I think it was actually Christina did the session. So I'm pretty sure we were sort of doing the 1, 2, 3 jump photos with Christina. And for whatever reason, you know, when I was working with Jessie, I mean, it wasn't like Christina wouldn't have done just danced, but I didn't think about it. And Jessie just said she wanted to improvise, and I said, fine. And so I did start to just observe and react. And what I realized is that, oh, it's digital. So I don't have to worry about film costs. I don't have to worry about, it's my time, but I want to be in this room with these people, so it's not, that's nothing. And so basically, these first ones, I mean, I really consider these images of Jessie to be the beginning of that idea of the project where you just sort of let people do what they want to do. You just let them move, and I watch, and I try to be present, and I just react. And that's really the core of what this Dancer Portrait project is to me now. So, excited by both the process and the results, the Dancer Portrait Project began. In all future sessions, I have invited each dancer to improvise freely and/or to perform choreography with a continuous flow while I react. The reality was, it didn't matter to me. It could have been the same choreography, I'm just watching the performance. And if the performance, if they're present, I don't care. I don't know whether it's choreographed or whether it's improvised. It makes no difference to the process. Somebody introduced me to Christina Isabel and said she's fierce. And I really did try to connect with her, and I was able to photograph her several times for this project, and then doing a live performance. Because this approach requires that both the dancer and I accept the likelihood of imperfection, this was a sea change for me. It's not in my notes. I'm a perfectionist. That doesn't mean I'm perfect. I know that. I know what it means. But I want to be perfect, you know? And photographing dance is the easiest way straight to hell. You can't be perfect. You just can't be perfect. So the dancers and I agree that we will not continuously rework a photo, repeating specific movements until the dancer has the perfect line and form, and I have the perfect dance photo. We don't always speak those words, but that's part of the unwritten contract that we have, that they just dance and I just react. And I just feel weird saying it, but that's how all of these pictures were made. Rachel just danced. And I got to witness a beautiful performance, and I just got to respond. And it's a beautiful, really beautiful experience. The other thing about the project for me, and I talked a little bit about it, but taking money out of the equation further released the usual expectation in the situation. I want to provide dancers with high-quality photos, but I don't charge money to the dancer because I don't want to deal with the expectations that sets up in them or in me. I don't guarantee that I will deliver a perfect dance photo during the photo session, only that I will try to capture the full energy and perfection, frankly, of their performance. During these early sessions at Lynx Hall, I was provided with space for free on various Sundays. For almost 10 years, I was able to keep the project going by finding generous organizations who could offer me free dance studio space. In addition to Lynx Hall, these organizations included the American Rhythm Center, the Harold Washington Cultural Center, the Riva and David Logan Center, the Riva and David Logan Center for the Arts, Chicago Dance Makers Forum with the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, Soham Dance Space, and the Dance Center of Columbia College. I couldn't have continued this project without the support of all of those organizations, so I'm extremely grateful to all of them. Very quickly, and sorry, Bril, to stay on this image for a minute, but very quickly after this, like Just Dance discovery with Jessica, I developed a standard routine before the start of each photo session. I began asking each dancer to hold a color chart while I took their photo. I used the color chart for technical reasons to set the autofocus on the camera and to color correct the final images. Let me get this. The focus establishes the parameters of the stage. So it's really very small. It's about 4 feet by 8 feet that they actually have, even though Lynx is much bigger than that. But the focus establishes the parameters of the stage each dancer has, and within that stage, they are free to move and stay in focus. And for the photographers out there, thank you, depth of field. It's a good thing. This card time, I realize, is also kind of a breaking of the ice thing. And because it's continued for over 10 years, this project, that's really what it is. Holding the card does help do what I said it does, but it actually gives me a time to just talk with the dancer, for me to get relaxed, because as an introvert, talking to other people that I don't know is not easy. And having people in a studio setting is also difficult. I respect the difficulty of being photographed. That's why I showed the pictures of me as a child. So to create a relaxed situation before the music starts and the dancing and the photography begins. So for this lecture, I wanted to put as many of the card pictures in here so that you could see this. You have to see the card and the standing there, and then you have to see what follows. And these are not always in order, I'm not saying that, but it's just a wonderful thing to see the kind of quiet solemnity of the card, and then to see this, right? And it was actually started at the American Rhythm Center, but really, through working with Mad Rhythms and Bril, I fell in love with tap. I mean, there's a whole book over here of just tap dancers for that reason. Because you can't see, a lot of the elegance of tap dance, you can't see when it's full out. I'm sorry. I mean, to me, I've seen tap on stage, but I like seeing tap in my pictures, the truth, right? So I've had a chance to photograph many different styles of dance, and that's the other thing about this talk today. There's no way I can show you the close to 350 to 500 dancers in the project that I've shown, but they're all different styles, all different kinds of dance, and the richness of the Chicago dance community is just phenomenal. I, along with my son, and this is the other thing I love about this project, my son has been assisting me for most of these Sunday sessions. His name is David, and he's been working with me for years. And he's just a very graceful, calm presence in this sessions. And so we both work together to try to make it as calm and as easy for dancers to do as possible. Again, think back to kids crying in their group photo thing. That's my memory, and it's never left. I give little or no direction during the session. Literally, they start and they stop when they're tired. Or sometimes I'm tired of being on the ground and I stop them. But I try never to ask the dancer to do something again. Every now and then I do, between you and me, but most of the times I don't. It sort of defeats the purpose if I start asking them to do something again. And so I'm attempting to document the performance in the studio in the same way I would document a live performance. Absolutely true. They dance, I respond. And when you're shooting a live performance, you don't get do-overs. You can't stop and say, hey, could you do that again? So I don't do that in the studio. So I kind of vowed today that I would try to, I'm saying a lot of words, but I would try to spend more time showing you some of the images so that you get a sense of the beauty of all of these dancers and their expression and how every part of a dancer's body is part of the expression. And it's just, it blows me away. So much about dance and dance photography is often about the idea of perfection, a perfect line, a perfect body, a perfect moment, that it creates anxiety I don't enjoy, and I never have. I'm not looking for perfection in any of these portraits. I am looking for dancers to be fully present, to be in the moment, and I try to be as well. And absolute truth. When I'm observing the beautiful solo performances each dance artist gives in my presence, I'm looking intently through the camera, I'm focused on the dancer, on the movement, and I just react. I don't think. If I think, I miss it. So I just don't. I'm just enjoying that moment. So all of these, some of these ones of Monty, I love these images. They look like these jump poses, but he just did this. I didn't know he was going to do it, and he just did it. I mean, you don't have to trust me, but trust me. That's how it happened. And I love that he started doing Michael Jackson stuff. Oh my God, phenomenal. So this experience is as close to pure joy as I have ever experienced, and it's really addicting for me. When I'm not doing this kind of work, I miss it. I have this working title that we've been talking about, Transcendence, and the definition that I found was existence or experience beyond the normal or physical level. My wife Donna, who's in the room, also a wonderful dancer, describes this experience as deep unity of the dancer with their dance. Too long maybe for a title, but I love that. So I wanted that to be in here. And that's how it feels, because that's how it feels for a dancer. Yeah.
Can you say it again?
Deep unity of the dancer with their dance. Dance. So Star's not here, but I could have done what I'm about to do with Star, with everybody in the project. But I wanted you to have at least one sequence of pictures where you just watch the different expression, the beautiful dance, obviously. And I love Star. Like Star can go from looking like the most angry person, always beautiful dancing, but just such a range of emotion. And that's really what I see, and that's why it's very hard for me to edit these. I mean, to edit them down even for this was very difficult, because which one do you pick when they all have that kind of, many of them have that kind of presence that I'm talking about? Yeah. So instead of striving for predictability and perfection, this process has given rise to many exquisite discoveries, many deeply felt connections, many fully embodied moments that could never have been planned. We didn't. They just did it, and I reacted, and that's what happened. Sometimes I feel that what I observe in a dancer during a photo session is this experience, this transcendence experience, this unity of the dancer with the dance. And when it's strong, I feel that we're both experiencing it simultaneously. Memory is very important to me, and photography has always been a trigger for memory. One of the things still photography does best, and I said this earlier, is describe what is seen. Photography allows me to capture these moments close up, frozen, and remember them. Through this process, I believe I can see dance and the dancer in ways that the audience cannot. Jan Urquhart once told me that dance is ephemeral. It happens and you lose it. But photography can hold these moments and allow us to look closely at them again and again. It puts it into history, into a permanence we never have in dance, said Jan. Looking closely at a human being doing something they love making it visible, seeing and remembering him. That matters to me. Sterling's in the room, by the way. I just want to say a few words about the next couple images. In 2023, I had the opportunity to photograph Julia Rhodes and her daughter Vera again. So this is Julia. Julia was in some of the Excite pictures that I showed earlier, the black and whites. Still a lovely dancer. And her daughter Vera is dancing now. So the first time I photographed them was in 2006. So I wasn't going to say this, but you know you're getting old when you photograph, you do this. And then I could get weepy about this. So Vera danced in the same dress that her mother danced in the previous photograph. And it was just a really great day. Wonderful day. I still have too many more people I want to photograph and remember, and I hope to continue this project as long as dancers are willing to be present in front of me and my camera. In 2024, with financial help from the Illinois Arts Council, I was able to find a home for the project every month on second Sundays at Lynx Hall. I love being in that space because it's really where I started the project in 2013. And what I really love is knowing that I'll be back each month. So I don't have to plan, I don't have to try to find another venue to do the work. So, and I tend to book people in advance, so I know that I already have dancers signed up. So not only do I get to go back to Lynx, but I know that I have 5 new dancers that are going to be willing to be there. So it's starting to feel like home to me. I've already booked Sundays at Lynx throughout the rest of 2024 and look forward to more sessions in 2025. So I had to show an image of Michelle Haskell because she just has this energy that, that is amazing to me. So Michelle and this photo radiated an energy that always makes me smile and exemplifies the energy and the heart of my project. Photographing dance and dancers for over 30 years has filled me with joy and gratitude. To discover something you love and continue to love for so many years is a tremendous gift, and I know that, and I'm grateful. I haven't spoken publicly about this work, and I felt that it was time to recognize and thank all the dance artists who have given so much pleasure all these years and share their images with the public. So the big aspect of the Newberry is that it's digital and that it's available to the public. And so everything I put up, people can just see. They can show their family, they can show their kid, and I'm very excited about that. I want all these passionate people to be seen and known and remembered. So when you have a minute, please take a look at the William Frederking Digital Photography Archive at the Newberry. Thank you so much for coming out this afternoon. Please stick around for a while for a few more speakers, and thank you very much.
Bill said he wasn't seeking perfection in his portraits, but I think we can all agree he offers us perfection in this incredible body of work. Though I am disappointed, Bill, you didn't mention your 3D project, maybe altered by some substances back in the 80s. We were together working on a project that was going to be the Hal Russell story in 3D, this crazy freeform jazz player, but that's another presentation, right, Bill? So we're going to have very brief remarks from three of his colleagues and dancers, all three actually who were in these images you just saw. First, we're going to hear from Irene Hsiao, who is a dancer, writer, and multidisciplinary artist. She creates performances in conversation with visual art in museums, galleries, and public spaces, a practice that includes site-specific interaction and experimental engagement. She has performances and residences including the Smart Museum, the Dance Makers Forum, the MCA, and Expo Chicago. She's also a writer, and her work has appeared in the Chicago Reader, New City Stage, Chicago Sun-Times, and the Los Angeles Review of Books. And she has a lovely piece about Bill in this week's Reader. Second, we're going to hear from Bril Barrett, who you also saw in the images. Bill is a dedicated tap dancer whose mission is to preserve and promote tap dance as a percussive art form, foster respect and admiration for the history and culture of tap, and continuously create opportunities for the art form and its practitioners. He's an incredible mentor to hundreds and hundreds of Chicago youth, and he's also the founder and artistic director of Mad Rhythms. He was honored as the Chicagoan of the Year, is the recent recipient of the NEA Heritage Fellow Award, and he is also, right, Bill, a 2024 Chicago Creative Spirit honoree as the Grand Marshal for the Arts in the Dark Parade.
That's right, that's right.
That's right, Bill. And then last, we'll have Michael McStraw, Executive Director of the Chicago Dance History Project. He's an outstanding advocate for the Chicago performing arts community. As a professional dancer, musician, arts administrator, dance educator, board member, and arts patron, Michael has been a positive and constant influence in the community of dance for 40 years. In 2022, he was celebrated as the Chicagoan of the Year in Dance by the Tribune, and before joining the Dance History Project, Michael served as Giordano Dance Chicago's executive director for more than 13 years. Let's welcome these three. Irene, you please begin. Thank you.
Caught in the blink between flight and fall, strands of hair aloft, clothes billowing from the gale force of human motion, the halted vibration of sound mid-scream, vectors intersecting and colliding, an impulse like a waterslide, a parachute, a whisper. We think of dance as motion, fundamentally, and yet, in Bill Frederking's photography, we know we are seeing dance distilled into embodied expression, as fleeting presence intercepted by the lens. This is the first paragraph of a photo essay that you can find in this week's Chicago Reader, where Bill's photographs appeared almost weekly in the Critics' Choice column in the 90s. I didn't start writing there until 2017, and Bill did not ask me for this article. I wrote it because I was so scared when he asked me to speak today. I knew Bill's photograph long before I met him. Dancers nearly always caught in the jump, their moment of flight extended and suspended. To step into the space he creates is to step into time, into the history of dance he has preserved, and to step out of time, to have the material of a moment made permanent. As an independent artist, getting to work with Bill felt like somehow getting to be real in a way that I don't usually feel. I was recommended by another dancer, Kinnari Vora, who had been in the Dancer Portrait Project before me. Thank you to her, always. One thing I like about working with Bill is our mutual sense of play. Neither of us knows what is going on. what will happen or what will result. It's almost as if it's happening to us, and we're simply there to receive it. This is a feeling I look for when I'm dancing, a state of no expectations, only discovery. So it's a great honor to be invited here today. Thank you for bringing so many dancers with you into the library.
I did not write an article. Now, what I wanted to say is one of the things I love about working with Bill and this whole project was that even if you look at the slides he showed earlier, it was mostly modern contemporary dancers. But I love that when he decided to do this, he said, I want to get all of Chicago dance involved. I want to make sure that I represent as much of Chicago's dance culture in its entirety. So a lot of black and brown dancers on the west side and south sides of Chicago had no access to Bill because we didn't even know. And so his project allowed us to start reaching out, and he would tell me, who else you got? Who else do you know? And so you saw as the photography moved toward today, you start to see a lot of tap dance, which wasn't represented as much early on. You started seeing hip hop, and you started seeing African dance and Chicago footwork. And so I love Bill's dedication to wanting to represent for everybody who exists and makes art within the city of Chicago. And that's all I got to say. It was a pleasure.
I know we've been talking a lot about the digital aspect of Bill's work, but I want to go back to the old school digital time, analog time. Take you back to a time when you had just one roll of film and you were trying to get a good picture, not a perfect picture, a good picture. And dancers could only promote themselves by a hard copy photo. And when I managed Mordine & Company Dance Theater, the only way you could talk to presenters was by sending them hard copy photos. So when you would do a photo shoot, then you would have the contact sheet and you would go through and you'd say, okay, I can spend $4, what can I buy? And so when you happened upon someone with Bill's skill and Bill's commitment to making the best of the moment, then you found more opportunity. But in a time when most of my dancing years were in that period where you didn't get good photos, you look at my career and I'm not a very good dancer, because what happened to be captured at that moment. But I will say that Bill's commitment to working in the moment and reacting had resulted in the most precious photo I possess, which was we were at Mo & Co. doing a photo shoot. We had been in one costume for one thing, and then we went and changed. And Sabine Parzer and I were the first two back to the stage for the photo shoot. And I said to her, let's play. So I just picked her up. She was tiny, picked her up, and we were dancing. And Bill reacted. Bill watched, observed, and caught the best photo of me in my entire career. And so that that analog time that we had set up the stage for what he's brought here. And I will echo exactly what Bril said, that the breadth and depth of his work across the community, not just with the contemporary dance companies, but across the wider thing that Chicago has to offer is so darn important to all of us. So thank you for that special photo that is on my wall. It's on my brother's wall. It's in my kids' room. And, and for making me look like a pretty good dancer. Thank you.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
First of all, let's thank both three of our dancers, Bril and Michael and Irene. Please, just one more time, this gift to the city, this gift to the dance community. He's been doing this with passion, and he's done it with love, and he's done it without any commercial interaction. And who else has done that except Bill Frederking? Please, again, Bill Frederking. We're we're going to be going to the Somerset, 1118 is just 2 blocks away, North State, right? And for drinks, if you'd like to join us. But I have one more request of all of you. If there's any angel in this room, or if you're a devil that wants to be an angel, Bill does this all for free, but he wants to continue this project for the next 3 years, pay studio time alone. He will continue to give all of his labor, his artistry, will cost about $10,000. So we collectively have to find that angel that's going to help purchase the studio time to allow this project to continue, and hundreds of more dancers being documented, being captured, being loved. So if you're that angel, if you're that devil that wants to be reordered as an angel, we have a form here. Please talk to me. Bill, what a gift you've been to us. What a gift you'll continue to be. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you to all our speakers. Thank you, Michael and Sean of the Chicago Dance History Project, for filming this. So this is going to be part of the Chicago Dance History Project archives, which will eventually come to the Newberry, and also the CDHP website. Thank you to all of our speakers. Thank you, Bill, for both your gift of the collection and for this presentation today. I wanted to point out that we have 4 beautiful coffee table books that Bill self-published. They are going to be part of the Newberry's collections. You can also get your own personal ones and talk to Bill about that. And that will also help fund both your career and put food on your table. So it's always a good thing. Thanks again for coming. If you have any questions, I think Bill will be around. And have a great afternoon, everyone. Thank you.